Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Shotara Sata Shri Shrimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Ashotara Sata Shri Shrimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem se Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, titled Viduras Talks with Maitreya, text number 47. Mason, you're pulling it up? Tata apare cha atma samadhi yoga balena jitva prakritim balishtam tvam eva dhiraha purusham vishanti tesham shramaha syat na tu sevaya te. Tatha pare chatma samadhi yoga. Tatha pare chatma samadhi yoga. Balena jitva prakritim balishtam. Balena jitva prakritim balishtam. Tvameva dhirav purusham vishanti. Tvameva dhirav purusham vishanti. Tesham shama natu sevayate. Tesham shamasya natu sevayate. Tatha pare chatma samadhi yoga. Balena jitva prakritim balishtam. Tvameva dhirav purusham vishanti. Tesham shamasya natu sevayate. Tatha pare chatma samadhi yoga. Balena jitva prakritim balishtam. Tvameva dhirav purusham vishanti. Tesham shamasyan natu sevayate. Please chant. Tatha pare chatma samadhi yoga.
Balena jitva prakritim balishtam. Tvameva dhirav purusham vishanti. Tesham shamasya natu sevayate.
Tatha pare chatma samadhi yoga.
Balena jitva prakritim balishtam.
Tatha pare chatma samadhi yoga. Balena jitva prakritim balishtam. Tvameva dhirav purusham vishanti. Tatha pare chatma samadhi yoga. Prakritim balishtam.
Tvameva dhirav purusham vishanti.
Vishanti.
Tesham shamasya natu sevayate.
Mataji's. Tatha pare chatma samadhi yoga. Vishanti. Balena jitva prakritim balishtam. Tvameva dhirav purusham vishanti. Masyana tu sevayate. Tapare chatma samadhi yoga. Malena jitva prakritim barishtam. Shanti. Shamasyana tu sevayate. Tata, as far as. Apare, others. Cha, also. Atma, samadhi, transcendental self-realization. Yoga, means. Balena, by the strength of. Jitva, conquering. Prakritim, acquired nature or modes of nature. Balishtam, very powerful. Tvam, you. Eva, only. Dhiraha, pacified. Purusham, person. Vishanti, enters into. Tesham, for them. Shramaha, much labor. Syat, has to be taken. Na, never. Tu, but. Sevaya, by serving. Te, of you. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Others who are pacified by means of transcendental self-realization and have conquered over the modes of nature by dint of strong power and knowledge also enter into you. But for them there is much pain, whereas the devotees simply discharges devotional service and thus feels no such pain. Purport. In terms of a labor of love and its returns, the bhaktas, or devotees of the Lord, always have priority over persons who are addicted to the association of the jnanis, or impersonalists, and yogis, or mystics. The word apare, others, is very significant in this connection. Others refers to the jnanis and the yogis, whose only hope is merging into the existence of the impersonal Brahmajyoti. Although their destination is not so important in comparison to the destination of the devotees, the labor of the non-devotees is far greater than that of the bhaktas. One may suggest that there is sufficient labor for the devotees also in the matter of discharging devotional service. But that labor is compensated by the enhancement of transcendental pleasure. The devotees derive more transcendental pleasure while engaged continuously in the service of the Lord than when they have no such engagement. In the family combination of a man and a woman, there is much labor and responsibility for both of them. Yet when they are single, they feel more trouble for want of their united activities. The union of the impersonalists and the union of the devotees are not a par. The impersonalists try to fully stop their individuality by attaining Sayuja Mukti, or unification by merging into oneness, whereas the devotees keep their individuality to exchange feelings in relationship with the Supreme Individual Lord. Such reciprocation of feelings takes place in the transcendental Vaikuntha planets, and therefore the liberation sought by the impersonalist is already achieved in devotional service. The devotees attain mukti automatically, while continuing the transcendental pleasure of maintaining individuality. As explained in the previous verse, the destination of the devotees is Vaikuntha, or Akunta Dishya, the place where anxieties are completely eradicated. One should not mistake the destination of the devotees and that of the impersonalists to be one and the same. The destinations are distinctly different, and the transcendental pleasure derived from the devotee is also distinct from chin matra, or spiritual feelings alone. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaf Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Tatapare Chatma Samadhi Yoga Balena Jitva Prakritim Balishtam Tvam Eva Dhiraf Purusham Vishanti Tesham Sramasyan Natu Sevayate. Others who are pacified by means of transcendental self-realization and have conquered over the modes of nature by dint of strong power and knowledge also enter into you. But for them there is much pain, whereas the devotee simply discharges devotional service and thus feels no such pain. We are continuing this chapter here about Vidura's talks with Maitreya. And the demigods are glorifying and praying to the Supreme Personality of Godhead here. And this point of it being the Supreme Personality of Godhead is being very much stressed here. The word here in the Sanskrit of Atma Samadhi, this transcendental self-realization, is used here for the means of impersonal liberation, or as Prabhupada describes here in the purport, as Sayuja Mukti, or unification by merging into oneness. And this distinction is very important, and it's a very foundational understanding of our philosophy. That while the impersonal liberation does exist, it isn't like where the atheists who believe in something that is untrue. The atheists, they believe that God does not exist, which is not a fact. This impersonal liberation, it is a destination which one can attain to. But as Srila Prabhupada elaborately describes here in the purport, it is nowhere near the supreme destination. It is nowhere near the highest level of, as Prabhupada describes in the purport, transcendental pleasure that the Atma or the Jiva can attain. And Prabhupada, he very much stressed this point. Does anyone know the meaning of the Pranam mantra of Srila Prabhupada, the first one? Okay. What else?
Very dear to Krishna.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then, what about the second?
Respectful obeisances unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Saraswati Goswami, who came to preach and destroy your personal
this Nirvishesha and Shunyavadi. Srila Prabhupada, following in the disciplic succession, coming from Krishna, coming to Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, coming to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, coming through our own Srila Prabhupada, came to these Western countries to destroy this impersonalism and this voidism, which is very important because even though it might not be so gross per se as the big impersonalists, the followers of the Vedas in India, we can understand that this impersonalism, this enviousness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, wanting to have the position of being the Supreme, it is the root cause for our being in this material world. And that being free from this misconception is actually the supreme medicine for our liberation from this material world. And it's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about this distinction, where it's describing first the Buddhist philosophy, where it describes how Buddhism is basically just covered atheism, where the Buddhists, they ultimately believe that everything is actually nothing, that there is no supreme personality, there is no supreme anything. Everything that we see now is just in the state that it's currently in, but actually, when you come to the highest level of nirvana, you understand that actually everything is nothing. So this is covered atheism, but it's described that more dangerous than that is this impersonalism, because through the means and through the guise of the Vedic teachings and the Vedic understanding, that the improper conclusion is presented. The improper conclusion is given based on the authority of the Vedas, and one actually spoils his whole life by following this means of understanding. Srila Prabhupada talks about here in the purport about the association of the jnanis and the yogis, or mystics. And we understand that the jnanis and the yogis, these aren't just some, regular, ordinary people, but the jnanis and the yogis, they're people who have dedicated their whole lives to a certain practice. And even by following what they consider to be the conclusions of the Vedas, they preach this philosophy, and they're able to come up to a certain level of realization. As Srila Prabhupada describes here, their hope is to merge into the existence of the impersonal Brahmajyoti. And it's described that they undergo much labor, much intensive practice, just to reach this goal which they consider to be the supreme. But this distinction is very important to be made, because not only does one undergo so much hard labor, but they attain a goal, they attain a position that's only temporary. It might seem appealing to so many people, especially in the current scope of society, because people, they're suffering so much. People, they're having so many problems in their life. And even currently, their solution is just to try and forget about everything, just to be in a state of consciousness where they don't really have to think about anything, where they can just watch their TV or scroll on their social media, or just lay back and listen to some music, where they basically don't have to think about anything. They don't have to actually physically do anything. They can just exist in this state of being free from the miseries of material life. But it's important to understand that this merging into the impersonal Brahman, the impersonal liberation, it is not a permanent destination. When me and Tapas Prabhu were at this event this past weekend, distributing books, we were preaching to this one young guy who was organizing, volunteering to organize one of these events. And basically, like, nobody walked by our table for like a whole hour, so we just decided to like preach to this guy. And he was basically like one of these neo-Mayavadis, one of these Western impersonalists, who just like wanted to be free from like the sufferings of material life. And I was basically describing to him not to take shelter of all of these material things, because, at the end you're taking shelter of something that's only temporary. And he admitted that him as a eternal being, meaning something that's not temporary, to have shelter that's only temporary, you're going to be put back into the same position that you were in. So this happiness that we're yearning for, this feeling in our heart, which we feel always unfulfilled, I was describing to him that it feels unfulfilled because we're needing a permanent shelter. We're needing a permanent destination for our eternal constitutional position. And all of these things that people take shelter of, all these different things that people try to take shelter of, it's only temporary, so they can never actually be free from this suffering of material existence. Even if one does attain impersonal liberation into the Brahmajyoti, it is described that as soon as the desire for anything basically comes, the opportunity to act on that desire comes about. And this important philosophical distinction has to be there, that in order for there to be desire, in order for there to be the desire for something, there has to be a personality behind that. And that's where a lot of the arguments against this impersonalism come in. Because the impersonalists, they say, okay, even though there is all these forms and there is everything now, and we have all this form, all this feature, that in the beginning, actually, it was all formless. Actually, in the beginning, it was all nothing. But the desire to do anything can't come from something that's not personal. The nature of desire, the nature of wanting something, comes itself from personality. And if the original state of the Supreme Personality of Godhead was that of being impersonal, where would the desire to create all of the living beings, the desire to create the material world that's being described here, where would all of this come from? Without the personality, there would be no desire to even create any of this that we see. There wouldn't be the desire for us to even exist. So based on that understanding, one can, even off their own material experience, understand that to have personality, to be a person, is better than to just be nothing. People who have only bad experiences in life, sometimes people resort to even drastic measures such as suicide or taking too much intoxication or different things like this, because all of their personal experience is actually negative. But when one takes up to the process of Krishna consciousness, one can have all these amazing, wonderful, and blissful experiences. And it's actually so wonderful, that especially in this age of Kali, the process has been made so easy for us, right? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's given us the easiest and most blissful process to actually come out of the condition of this material existence. And that even in and of itself isn't what's being emphasized here by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada describes that the devotees derive more transcendental pleasure while engaged continuously in the service of the Lord when they have no, rather than when they have no such engagement. So this process of Krishna consciousness, this process of devotional service, it isn't just a means to free one from the sufferings of material existence. It isn't just a means to get to the level of zero. We can see ourselves in a negative state right now, and you can consider impersonal liberation to get one to the platform of zero. But then beyond that, there's also the positive activity, and there's also the positive engagement. And that is what is given to us by this process of Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada, he uses this analogy in the purport in order to describe this. And he uses this analogy of the family combination. That for one who is searching after family life, they might be in such an uncomfortable and distasteful situation. They might be so disturbed because they're wanting to have so many different kinds of engagements. And even though the engagements that they might get while having a family, like taking care of children, having to maintain a home and all these other responsibilities, still that engagement in service to their family, it gives them some degree of pleasure, it gives them some degree of purpose and responsibility. And that can be seen that when one leaves that situation of family life due to divorce or something like this, they are again searching for that level of responsibility, relationship, and they're again searching to engage in that activity again. So when there's this activity in devotional service, it is actually very blissful, and it's something that actually satisfies us. It actually gives us the proper engagement for which our hearts are actually longing for. Because this impersonal liberation, like I said, it only brings us to zero. It doesn't actually fill that void in the heart that we have. Because as eternal spirit souls, as parts and parcels of Krishna, our eternal constitutional position is Jiver Svarupoy Krishna Nityadas. That it is the nature, it is our personal nature to want to serve Krishna. So as long as we're not in that position of serving Krishna, serving the devotees of Krishna, then we'll constantly feel like this fish out of water. We'll constantly feel like we're in an unnatural position, because we are. And as long as one is in a natural, temporary position as an eternal spiritual being, they'll never actually feel fully satisfied. And that satisfaction doesn't just come from doing nothing. Like I said, it comes from this positive engagement. It comes from this engagement in devotional service. And the devotional service for this age of Kali Yuga, it's been so easily put forward to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya says that Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalo nastyeva gatiranyata. And it's described that one should just chant the holy name, chant the holy name, chant the holy name, and that there's no other way than just by chanting this holy name. And this is very important and relevant here, because in the context and in the connotation of this refutation of nastyeva, it's actually saying not by karma, not by yoga, not by gyan, but only by bhakti. And Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing this here in the purport that one should give up the association of jnanis, one should give up the association of karmis, one should give up the association of yogis, and one should only associate with the bhaktas. One should only associate with those who are engaged in this labor of love and its returns with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because that will allow us to taste this full nectar at every step in which we're always anxious for. Simply by chanting the holy name, simply by engaging in this Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya, we can actually, and by associating with those bhaktas who are engaged in this Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya, that one can derive this transcendental pleasure of the devotee, which is beyond any sort of experience that we've been able to have thus far. It is beyond any material experience. It is beyond anything that we can even conceive of, yet we're being allowed entrance into this because it is the special mercy of Lord Chaitanya. It is the special mercy of Lord Chaitanya that one doesn't have to go through the process of karma. One doesn't have to engage in so much activity just to come up to this high level of understanding. One doesn't have to even engage in the process of jnana. One doesn't have to spend so many years studying all of the Vedas and wait to be born in a Brahmin family to even get the authority and the jurisdiction to study all these Vedic literatures. That one doesn't even have to be a yogi who exerts so much penance to control the mind and the senses. But one simply has to engage in the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya. And then all these things, they naturally come about. And it is especially the mercy of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, that we have this Brihad Mridanga, right? In the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya, they would play this kartal and mridanga, and they would attract so many people to the Sankirtan mission. They would attract so many people to Krishna consciousness. Just by hearing the transcendental holy name reverberated by the bhaktas, reverberated by the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, people will be so attracted to this holy name simply by hearing the kirtan. So many people would flock to the kirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But now, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have this Brihad Mridanga, the louder, the greater Mridanga. And this is continuing in this merciful feeling of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where there is no bar to entry for anybody. We go out onto the streets and we meet anybody and everybody, and we give them the full mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We give them entrance into this highest level of understanding, highest level of Krishna consciousness, by which none of us have any actual qualification for. You know, if you look at least most of us, we had no reason or no qualification to even stumble upon this, at least speaking for myself. But Lord Chaitanya and our acharyas are so merciful that they're giving us this highest engagement in Krishna consciousness, where we're able to engage in this transcendental activity of preaching Krishna consciousness all over the world. We're able to engage in this transcendental mission of our acharyas. Srila Prabhupada describes that my Guru Maharaj, he gave me so much work to do. He gave me so much responsibility and so much activity to preach this Krishna consciousness in the Western countries. And if you look at it, it's no easy task. As Srila Prabhupada describes, that these Western countries, they're so full of impersonalism, voidism, they're pretty much full of everybody who's never even heard of Krishna, never even heard of Bhagavad Gita. And even those few people who had, they've been guided under the misconceptions of impersonalism and voidism. So Srila Prabhupada, he was given such a difficult and arduous task ahead of him of spreading this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. And similarly, our acharyas, our own gurus and spiritual masters, they've given us seemingly endless activity to perform in Krishna consciousness. They've given us endless engagement, right? It's pretty much, we can see almost every time we go on the street or wherever we may be, we meet completely new people who have never heard about Bhagavad Gita, who have never heard about Krishna, who have never heard about Srila Prabhupada, who have never heard about Bhakti and the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya. And just by a small interaction with a devotee of the Lord, or one who is trying to practice the devotional service of the Lord, they can become eternally benefited. Right? It's described that even by meeting a devotee and appreciating the devotees, even by holding the books of Srila Prabhupada in their hand, even by even looking at the covers or reading a paragraph, a sentence, even a word, especially at these conventions, I like to have people, especially people who are interested in the Srimad Bhagavatam, read sections of the Bhagavatam and have Srila Prabhupada himself preach to these people. And one of my favorite sections to show to people is the introduction to this Srimad Bhagavatam, the introduction that's there in the first canto of Bhagavatam, where Srila Prabhupada, he's hitting on this exact point. He's hitting on this point about how the absolute truth of everything, it has to be personal. And this is basically after the preface, just describing like the compilation and the layout and what is the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is pretty much the first words that people read in this Srimad Bhagavatam. This is pretty much the first thing that Srila Prabhupada preaches about in his Bhagavatam, is the fact that this absolute truth and the nature of the absolute truth, it must be personal. And this is very important for people, especially in the Western countries, to read, because like I said, they're riddled with this deep-rooted impersonalism and voidism. And we can see this factually because pretty much anyone who takes to a spiritual path, especially in the Western countries, they come to this understanding. They come to the understanding that, oh yeah, actually, we're all energy, I am you, you are me, and we can all just live happily in kumbaya, and we'll, at the end, we'll just all merge into the light, and everything is light, and everything is great and wonderful and magical because it's all light. You meet so many people that take up to a spiritual path, and because this impersonalism is so deep-rooted, because it's so rooted in our conditioned nature in this material world, that pretty much anyone we see who takes to this spiritual path, they come to this understanding. Because this impersonal desire, ultimately this envy of Krishna that we have deep-rooted within our hearts, which is the reason why we're here in this material world, it's actually the last snare of Maya. It's that last ring that we have to climb to become free from this material existence and actually properly engage in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And pretty much the only way that people are going to come to that conclusion or come to that understanding is if they get these books of Srila Prabhupada. If they simply read Prabhupada's books, there's no possible way that they'll come to the understanding that actually the absolute truth is impersonal. Because like we see here, Prabhupada, he so emphatically harps on this point that, yes, okay, impersonal liberation, it is there. It does exist. But one should not strive for it, because ultimately all this labor, all this intensive work that's done by the jnanis, the yogis, all this hard work that's done, it's ultimately a temporary position that doesn't even fill that transcendental pleasure that the jiva, the atma, is so much searching for. That one shouldn't dedicate his whole life of working so hard simply to attain this unfortunate position of impersonal liberation. But one can actually do some work, do some labor, engage in some transcendental activity, and even in this very life experience this Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, this amazing level of bliss that one doesn't have to wait to the spiritual world to get, that in this very life, simply by engaging in the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya, we can make ourselves fortunate and we can also make others fortunate. Because like I said, there's no other way. Kalo nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva. Not by karma, not by jnana, not by yoga. By none of these processes will one actually come to the understanding unless one actually receives these books of Srila Prabhupada. So with this understanding, one should want to Go out every day and give as many people as many of these books as humanly possible. Because otherwise there's no hope for anybody. Unless these books of Srila Prabhupada are distributed widely and enthusiastically, there is truly no hope for anybody. There's no hope for the fallen conditioned souls in this material world. So one with great intensity and enthusiasm should dedicate their lives to simply spreading these books of Srila Prabhupada to everybody. And we have the great fortune of living in a temple, staying in ashram, where we're given full facility and full opportunity, especially now during times of marathon. One has the opportunity to have basically his or her full day completely open for distributing these books. That we've been given this amazing facility and this amazing section of time to simply fully engage our mind, our body, our soul, our words, our actions, every moment of our day that's free, to simply distribute these books and engage in this transcendental activity to attain this Vaikuntha destination of one's whole life just simply dedicated to the service of the Lord. And through engaging in this highest level of activity, we can actually bring others also. So one should, for these next 16 days, for this next time of marathon, while one has the opportunity, while one has the great fortune of the freedom, the liberty, and the ability to do so, one should want to spend every moment out there distributing these books, making others fortunate, trying to free these conditioned souls of this deep-rooted heart of this impersonalism. And with the effulgent sword of knowledge, just chop this root at its very deepest point and pull it out. So I encourage everybody to, at least whenever there is free time, whenever there is opportunity, for one to engage in this transcendental book distribution, especially during this time of marathon, like I said, where one has full capacity, full availability to do nothing else but simply distribute these books, to take the opportunity to do so. Because in other times, one has so many other services to perform. Not that those other services aren't important, but specifically, it's described that this book distribution, it allows one to very easly experience through the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya. He's allowing us to very easily experience this high nectar that we aren't actually ready for, but by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, he really gives us entrance into that. So I encourage everybody, whenever they can, to please go out on book distribution. And yeah, sorry I couldn't really speak so much on the purport and everything. I didn't have so much time to prepare, but I thought during the marathon I could at least speak a little bit on book distribution. So I apologize for anything that I might have missed or skipped over. I feel like maybe even like a whole seminar could be given, just on this purport. So I'll end my class here. Sorry, it's about like 8:30, but if anyone has any quick questions or comments or corrections, we can please take those now. Vamshi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We see many times even devotees, they have read maybe the Bhagavatam and so many books they have read, even of Prabhupada, and but then there is this absence of serving the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
We see that they are averse to service, like even of the part. So is it impersonal? Because if they understand the personality thoroughly, because Bhagavatam is fully about that. So what kind of dealing is this? Like, I just wanted to know.
Yeah, we can understand that if one is actually hearing properly, and if one is actually reading properly, because reading, it's another form of this shravanam, it's another form of this hearing, that one will also want to act on what they're hearing about. So if one is not actually engaging in devotional service, or if one has this attitude that, yeah, I'm just going to read, I'm just going to hear, and I'm not going to do any practical service, one is not actually hearing properly, which is why things like the association of devotees, it's so important, right? In spiritual life, association, it's actually everything for us. So, like you were saying, when one actually hears properly, they'll actually want to engage in that service, right? Hearing actually, when one properly hears, that translates into action. So we should be in the association of devotees so we can understand if we're actually hearing properly. And then the devotees will engage us accordingly, if that answers your question.
So, no, my question is like, is it a personal dealing, or is it like, I feel it's impersonal maybe somehow, but that's my point actually.
Yeah, I mean it's not necessarily impersonal, right? We can see that when one is first coming up in Krishna consciousness at the Kanishta Adhikari level, that one sort of just sees himself in Krishna. But through the process of devotional service, through engaging in the activities of different things like book distribution, cooking, gradually by the association of devotees, one comes up and one, starts to have more of a personal relationship with everybody. So it isn't that, one who just sees himself in Krishna there impersonal, because, they're still understanding the form of Krishna and they're still wanting to serve Krishna, but gradually that higher understanding comes about the more we engage in Krishna consciousness and devotional service. So it isn't impersonal per se, but when one comes up in Krishna consciousness and when one progresses to the Madhyam Adhikari and Uttama Adhikari level, then they start to see things as more as just me and Krishna, but they see all of the jivas, they see all the other devotees, and they naturally want to do more service and things like that for them. Anything else? Mataji's, any questions? All right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki